President Trump sets up a registry to register every single illegal alien, and the left goes apoplectic. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, ho, 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 ho. You think the Sanctuary City showdown is heating up. You've seen nothing yet. So here is now the absolute latest. According to the left, according to the media, according to the Democrats, Trump's so-called concentration camps or his detention camps or whatever you want to call them are now about to begin. I've never seen ever this kind of histrionic, over-the-top, emotional, out-of-control reaction or response to any sane, normal proposal in my entire life. So here is now the absolute latest. The Wall Street Journal broke this story yesterday. It broke late, pretty much in the evening. So it's a bit of a late-breaking story whereby, according to the Wall Street Journal, and they say this has been confirmed now by senior Trump administration officials, they have seen now the draft plan in which President Trump and the Trump administration are now going to be setting up very quickly a website, a registry website, in which every single illegal alien in the United States, every single adult, children ages 14 and over, must register their name, their home address, along with a photograph and fingerprint. In other words, they want to now collect a massive database to know how many illegals there actually are in our country, where are they, and to begin the process of deporting every single illegal out of the United States. Now, just so that you understand exactly what they have to do, these illegals have to then sign, they have to fill out a registration form, provide fingerprints, as I said, photographs, and their latest home address. If they do not comply with this order, okay, with this new program, then they will be fined up to $5,000 or they can be sentenced up to 6 months in prison. So this is not voluntary. They have to do it. If they don't do it, they're going to face a massive fine up to $5,000 or if for some, I guess, 6 months or up to 6 months in prison. Now, if before you start saying, Jeff, my God, we've never done this before in the United States of America. That's not true. In fact, the Trump plan, this registration or registry program, is based on a 1940 law. So this has significant, massive precedent in the United States, in which in 1940, there was a plan or program implemented in which by then there were many immigrants coming into the United States, and this continued throughout the 40s and 50s. However, every immigrant, even those that were, let's say, permanent green card holders, had to register with their latest names, fingerprints, photographs, because the government wanted to find out who were suspected communists and who were not, in particular from Central Eastern Europe. How many of them had infiltrated our immigration system, our borders, and came into the country and they were actually communists. So they had immigrants who were coming to America. They had to register. Not only did this happen from the 1940s till the early 1960s, when the program then eventually just was phased out, but under the George W. Bush administration, okay, Bush 43, after 9/11, the Bush administration implemented a very similar registry program for Muslim men and boys, again, children, male children, 14 years old and older, if they were in this country illegally or they had overstayed their visa or whatever the reason, but they're not legally in the United States, they then had to register on a website, fill out a registration form, present fingerprints, photographs, and then many of them were, in fact, tens of thousands of them were eventually deported out of the United States. So the notion that this plan doesn't have any legal basis or legal precedence is a lie. It is completely false. It has been done before. It was done from the 40s until the 60s, and it was done for years after 9/11 under the George Bush administration. Now, just so that everybody understands the details of the plan, those illegals who currently are facing deportation proceedings or who are in immigration court trying to argue that they are legitimate refugees, they do not have to register. Why? Because they're already in the system. They know who they are. They have their names, their identities, their latest home address, their fingerprints, their photographs, so they know who they are. So there are many illegals who are already in a database. What Trump is now doing, and this is going to be done through the Department of Homeland Security and Kristi Noem, is all of the other illegals, especially those brought in under Biden, the 10, 11, 12 million, God knows how many, they now are going to have to register online. Fill out this registration form. You have to give your latest home address, all of your identification, all of your info, fingerprints, photographs, and if you do not, if they find out and they catch you that you are an illegal and you have 30 days, they have 30 days from this point forward to register. If they do not register within the next 30 days, once they are caught and they're not on the registry, they're going to be fined up to $5,000 and or up to 6 months in prison. Now, critics are attacking this on every front. I can't tell you, they're going crazy, berserk, apoplectic, a collective meltdown. None of these phrases or words do justice the way the left is reacting to this. They are going nuts. They're going insane. They're saying it's the beginning of a massive roundup to concentration camps. In other words, more fear-mongering and lies. They say that many of these illegals cannot pay a fine of up to $5,000. They say that many of these people should not be put in jail simply for not putting their names or registering with the government because they're here illegally. Others say that breaking our immigration laws is a civil offense. It's a civil matter. It is not, they say, a criminal matter. So they say that Trump now is criminalizing or further criminalizing illegal aliens who are in our country. They claim that this is going to create massive fear in the entire illegal immigrant community, that this is going to put a target on ICE's backs, on the backs of ICE agents, because now illegals are going to be petrified that they will be snatched and deported at any time or at any moment. So the left is now claiming that if Trump goes ahead with this, it is a massive violation of the civil rights and civil liberties of illegal aliens. We are now discriminating against illegals by forcing them to register, and that this is going to lead now to potential chaos and even violence on the streets. Here is my rebuttal, and I want to hear from you. Again, if the lines are jammed, I'm taking calls right after the break. 617-266-6868 is the number. We as a nation have a right to know, number one, how many actual illegals we have in our country. I don't think asking illegal aliens to register is asking too much. You did come in illegally after all. So I think we do have a right to know who you are, where you live, what your identity is, get your fingerprints so we can see, have you committed other crimes in the United States? Have you committed crimes back in your home country? That's number one. So we have a right to know who is living and residing in the United States and whether they pose a major serious security threat. Number two, you don't comply. I see no problem in fining people $5,000. I see all you got to do is comply. It doesn't cost you anything. But if you don't comply, and now all of a sudden, well, I can't afford a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 fine, or I don't want to do 2, 3, 4 months in jail, then we deport your ass. I'm sorry. You came in illegally. We need to know who you are. We have every right to know who you are. And yes, eventually we're going to use that information to round up and deport every single illegal. Agree, disagree. Cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, my friends, the question now is to register or not to register. President Trump now has come out with a very bold, aggressive plan demanding that every single illegal alien in the United States, whether it's 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, we'll eventually, I guess, find out, must register with the government on a website within 30 days. It is a registration form, an official registry that they must sign, give all of their private information in terms of their name, their identity, their home address, their fingerprints, their photographs. If they do not comply within the next 30 days, they will be fined up to $5,000 and or up to 6 months in prison. I want to read a message I got from Mark, and I think it sets the table, and then I'm going to take calls. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff, the illegal alien registry is a great idea, but how many people that are here illegally are going to register? I don't think they want their name and their fingerprints and their photographs out there, especially if they have criminal records from their previous country. But what it could do is force them to self-deport. And of course, Jeff, being an illegal alien should be criminalized. It is a freaking crime to enter this country illegally. What say you? Mark, I agree with you completely. Of course, it's a crime to come in illegally. And it should be now further criminalized. And I think your point, though, is brilliant. Part of this is to force them to self-deport. In other words, the message is now being sent. Either you register, or if you don't, and we catch you, and we will catch you, you're going to be fined up the wazoo, or you're going to spend several months in jail. And I think many illegals are going to say, you know what? This is no longer a sanctuary country. The era of open borders and unlimited illegal immigration are over. Bye-bye, sayonara. We're heading back to wherever we came from. So I think that's an added benefit. But no, look, I'm sorry. You came into this country illegally. We have every right to know who you are, where you reside, and if you have a criminal background. I don't think we're asking for too much. Agree, disagree. Susie in Acton. You're going to kick us off, Susie? Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
I
Susan.
hope everything is well with you. Hi, I hope everything's well with you and your family.
Thank you.
Listen, I'm going to bring my place setting to the table. I am an American citizen. I was born in this country. My mother was born in this country. My father became naturalized in this country. Everything legal. Now, that being said, I was forced against my constitutional right to register with the government. I am a legally licensed concealed carry person. And now the fines for not being legally licensed and registered with the government are a lot more than a couple of months in jail and a couple $1,000 fine. I am completely repulsed at these politicians, and anybody for that matter, that has a problem with this requirement. These illegal aliens are in the country illegally. Let's define this. Illegal means what? Against the law. Now, I am forced, and I am also, oh, by the way, I have to give my name, I am photographed, and I am fingerprinted every 5 years. And also, I have to supply my Social Security number. So don't talk to me about violating anybody's personal information. Don't make excuses. Illegal means illegal. You're here illegally. Get out. Okay, let me ask another question. What other country in the world can you go to, get in there illegally, and then get a driver's license? That's another issue I have going on here. And guess what? To get my driver's license, I have to get photographed, and I have to give my Social Security number. So don't give me this argument that we're violating somebody's personal rights or whatever. I don't care. Get out of this country if you're here illegally. That's my point.
Oh, amen. And look, Susie, just to reinforce what you're saying, just to add to what you're saying, and I think it's a first round knockout, to use a boxing analogy. First call out of the gate, you've knocked them out. I mean, really, it's the checkmate argument. But just to add to what you're saying, to pile on, you know, God bless you. You were born in the United States. Your mother was born in the United States. I know you said your father was naturalized. I wasn't born in the United States. I wish I was, but I wasn't. I'm a naturalized American. I came into this country. I'm an American citizen. I came to this country legally. Now, I got fingerprinted. I had a criminal background check done. They took photographs of me. I had to completely register. They gave me a social, I'd been here before. I had studied at Ohio University, and I don't want to give you all my life story, but so I already had a previous Social Security number, but I gave them my Social Security number. They had my home address. They did a drug test on me, and what's wrong? So I don't understand. If legal immigrants, whether they just come here to work, or they come to get a green card, or like me, they become naturalized eventually, right? If we have to give all of this personal information, and we have to be fingerprinted, and we have to be photographed, and we have to tell them where we live, if it's good enough for us, all of a sudden now what? Illegals are exempt from what other legal immigrants have to do? I'm sorry, it's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. Agree, disagree, more next. Okay, Trump makes his move. This is a big move. The question now is, what is going to be the reaction and the response? And do you, Kuhner country, support it? President Trump now has announced through the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem as well. I'm just going by the Wall Street Journal. They have now broken the story. It's being confirmed, but they do claim they have several administration officials who've now said, behind the scenes that this is true. They've already seen the draft of the order. It's coming, whereby Trump is going to establish a nationwide registry for every single illegal alien. They must sign this registration form. They will have 30 days. If they do not provide their personal information, their name, their home address, fingerprints, photographs, which they're going to have to do on a website, they will then be fined up to $5,000 or up to 6 months in prison. Obviously, many are not. They're afraid. They have criminal backgrounds. They don't want to be found out. If they are ever found out, if they're captured or detained or whatever it may be, that's when they'll be fined or sent to jail. Many legal experts are blasting Trump, saying this is not going to work. This is going to spread fear, panic in the illegal immigrant community. Democrats, meltdown is not the word. Media meltdown is not the word. They are losing their collective minds. I'm asking you, do you support this idea? I love it. I think it should have been done a long time ago, but that's me. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Sorry about that. Got to work on the fly. She took the talking point right out from under me.
About having to register if you have a gun?
Yeah, it's ironic because it's what the Democrats demand. They demand that. But let's think back. You know, I know you had touched on it, but the famous thing about Ellis Island is you can go over there and you can see all the lists of the people who registered when they got here. And then they even did that when all the Cubans came in the 80s. They registered them. They actually kept them in quarantine for a couple of weeks to make sure they were healthy. What's the problem?
Oh, Larry, that's the thing. I think what's the problem? Really, you're completely right. You're absolutely right. What's the problem? People who own guns, people who believe in the Second Amendment, they have to register as a legal immigrant to this country, Larry, as I explained just before the break. And I've said it many times. I had to register. I had to be fingerprinted. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying you have to be fingerprinted, photographed. They do a complete criminal background check, which is just normal. You don't want to bring in a murderer. You don't want to bring in a rapist. You don't want to bring in a child molester. You don't want to bring in you don't know. I mean, I'm applying from Canada. They don't know who I am. So what I'm saying is I don't understand why illegal aliens and liberals who protect and coddle them feel that somehow they're exempt from everybody else. So if Americans have to be fingerprinted and photographed and registered, and legal immigrants have to be, registered and photographed and fingerprinted when they come to this country, why shouldn't illegals? And I'll tell you why, Larry. Because they know, first of all, I think they don't want us to know the sheer scale, how many illegals are in America. Because they keep throwing out this bogus 11 million number, which they've been using now for over 20 years. So I think the real number is going to be 30, 40 million. And when Americans realize that many are here illegally, you want to talk about going berserk. Americans are going to go berserk. And it's going to give Trump even more support for his mass deportations. So they don't want the total number to come out. I think that's number one. I think number two, Larry, to be honest, and you may disagree with me on this, I think what they're really also petrified of is once we know where they are, once we know who they are, they're much easier now than to round up, detain, and deport. And that means globalism is finished. That will decapitate globalism. Their goal is to destroy our country by using illegal immigration. If we can now register every illegal, and then by doing that, deport every illegal, well, then their whole project comes crashing down. We've literally defeated them. And they are clinging. This is their ticket to power. Flood the country with illegal immigrants, and then eventually use them to entrench one-party Democrat rule. You get rid of all the illegals, it's over for the Democratic Party, and they know it. That's why they don't want them registered. Larry, am I wrong?
Here's a thought that blue states, especially in this state, may have hung themselves with their attempts to legalize, air quotes, illegals. What did this state pass and push very hard? Giving illegals driver's license. What did that create for Doge, those computer geniuses? An illegal alien database.
Larry, that's an excellent point. That's an absolutely excellent point. Now, it's going to take time to track them down, who's illegal, who's not, who's illegal, who's legal. But you're right. By giving them driver's licenses, I don't think they've actually realized Now we can expose the identity and track down some of these illegals. And that's why they're freaking out now over the registry. And, you know, Larry, am I the only one? Like, when I go to get my license renewed or whatever, when I got my license, they photographed me. They get my social security number. They get my address. They get all, I mean, outside of being fingerprinted, they get all of my information there. I mean, Larry, am I wrong? Like, I don't know. Am I the only one they do this to? So why is it asking illegals to register somehow is this gross violation of their civil liberties? I mean, outside of being fingerprinted, everything else they're asking of these illegals is what they ask of us for a lousy driver's license. Larry, again, am I wrong, Larry?
Jeff, and this is laying excellent groundwork for 2030 because Trump tried and wasn't successful on getting the question on the census, saying, are you a U.S. citizen? This could be an end run around that.
Oh, that's a great point, Larry. Yeah, you see, a lot of people don't understand. Larry, you are killing it today, my friend. Larry, thank you very much for that call. Look, many of you out there have been emailing me for I don't know how many months now saying, Jeff, it's not just that the illegals are there to vote or as a potential voting bloc. It's the census. Because they count everybody. They don't just count American citizens, right, or legal residents. So what this does is in the blue states, in the sanctuary states, it artificially bloats their numbers. It artificially expands their numbers. So what it does is the census they use for congressional representation. So that's another reason why they want these illegals and they don't want them to go. California would lose seats in Congress. Massachusetts, I guarantee you, would lose seats in Congress. Illinois, New York State would lose seats in Congress. So the red states would have much more representation in Congress because the census then would, you get rid of all these illegals, then the total population goes down, and that's what they base congressional representation on. And if you can change the census to only reflect American citizens, well, then the blue states really lose a lot of political power. That's why they're freaking out. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Should illegal aliens be made to register their home address, their names, fingerprints, photographs, on a national registry list online? Trump says yes. In fact, this is a plan, an executive order he wants to now sign and implement this program for every illegal across the country. The left, Democrats, many illegal immigrant rights groups are saying it's fascism. What say you? Heather in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
Jeffrey, thank you so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
You know what? You made my sister's day. You have no idea. I'm so glad I set my alarm to wake up to you today because today I took today off. But I wanted to make sure I heard your show today, and boy, am I so glad. So, 2 comments, maybe 3. Basically, isn't it essentially that they just have to, if you can think of this analogy, essentially they're adding their names to the census? I mean, and Larry just stole my other comment. Of course, Larry's one of my favorite callers that calls into your show. As far as like the licenses, I mean, technically, aren't they registered with the, if they all have, the elite, especially Massachusetts, the illegals that have the licenses, mass licenses, but there's no reason why they should not be on a, registry database. And the other thing I wanted to say is how brilliant is Trump, because this is another way to generate money to pay back the debt in a roundabout way. I mean, without taxing us. That's another with the I mean, I mean, I don't know if he'll even get that much money from it, but it's kind of a good idea because, I mean, $5,000 is a lot of money for fines. So, I just think it's brilliant the whole way around. And one other thing, is I also think I forget the name of what he called it yesterday. I saw it at one of his conferences yesterday. But to have people, I don't know, it was $5 million for like wealthy people to buy like a $5 million.
Yeah, the gold card. It's not a green card. It's a gold card. And Trump is saying that he wants to charge a fee for, let's say, wealthy investors, if they want to invest in the United States, create jobs. It's important. It's not just anybody on the planet. They have to be willing to invest in the United States, create jobs in the United States. If they want to pay $5 million, they'll get what's called a gold card and become automatic U.S. citizens. Of course, they have to be vetted and do background checks and make sure they don't have ties to terrorism or they're not a threat to the country. But, you know, if they're, say, you living in Malaysia, and you're a wealthy man and you want to invest in the United States and create a company or a factory, Trump is saying, yeah, for $5 million, we'll fast track you and give you U.S. citizenship. And Trump is saying that there are so many people around the world that would love to invest in America and get citizenship at the same time. $5 million goes a long way towards paying down the debt. In fact, I don't want to get too off topic, but since you mentioned it, Heather, here's Trump yesterday touting the so-called gold card. Roll cut 2, Mike.
We're going to be doing something else that's going to be very, very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people, and we think it's going to be extremely successful.
Now, Heather, before I get back to you, to show you how ambitious they're trying to be with this, listen now to Trump. They think that they can sell over the next couple of years 1 million of those gold cards. Now listen to Trump saying, just do the math. If they're going to pay $5 million and we sell, $5 million per card and we sell 1 million cards, the national debt is gone. It's gone. Roll cut 2D, Mike.
1 million cards would be worth $5 trillion. $5 trillion.
Wow.
And if you sell 10 million of the cards, that's a total of $50 trillion. Well, we have 35 trillion in debt. That'd be nice. So we'll see. But it could be great. Maybe it will be fantastic.
So maybe not the whole thing, obviously, but it can go a long way towards paying down the national debt. And you're bringing in big wealthy investors. You're going to be paying a lot in taxes, who also will be investing, creating companies, creating factories, creating jobs, which more people are employed, the more they pay taxes. So in other words, the country's going to boom. So he's doing it on both fronts. He's getting rid of the illegals. And remember, Heather, so many of these illegals are mooching off of the welfare system. So there's going to be so much more money left for basic social services. So, we're not going to be draining and losing our money. So we're getting rid of the illegals. We're going to be saving a ton of money on that front. And if this gold card program really kicks off, and I think it will, if it really takes off, you're looking at trillions and trillions of dollars to pay down the debt. And the country's going to boom because you have all these investors pouring in their cash. So Trump you talk about thinking outside the box. Heather, I just don't know why we didn't do this sooner. If you're in this country illegally, we have a right to know who you are, where you are, and your criminal background. I don't think we're asking for too much. Am I wrong, Heather?
You are so, as you always say, not 100%, 1,000% correct. It just blows my mind that we, us American citizens have to write. I mean, it's the license. It's every little thing. Like you have to prove who you are. In society. So why is it different for them? I don't understand that. It blows my mind every single day. And not only is it, there's a lot of other, illegals that are scamming people scamming like the Americans, you know what I mean? And trying to, it's not just like the social services, but they're scamming people in other ways too. And, it just needs to stop.
I agree.
I freaking love Trump.
Heather, look, I got to tell you this. You're completely right. My wife was in Brockton yesterday. Okay. Selling a house. Anyway, long story short, she was there. Brockton is loaded with illegals, as you know. They live in the shadows. I mean, Grace came back and said, Jeff, it's unbelievable how many illegals have flooded into Brockton. And it's all off the books. They're all living in the shadows. They're all renting. She says you're looking at 8, 9, 10 people per apartment. And they've got jobs under the table. They're collecting welfare, Section 8, from Mass Health. I mean, the way they're just abusing our welfare system, left, right, and center, milking our system, and then also working under the table. They don't want to have their photographs taken. They don't want to have their fingerprints taken. They don't want to be known and identified because they understand that they're breaking it's illegal to take welfare services if you're not an American citizen. What they're doing is they're breaking the laws over and over and over and over again. It's illegal to take a job if you're not in this country legally. So what I'm saying is they're constantly breaking the law. It's not just that they cross the border and they break the law one time and that's it. So they're like repeat offenders. So of course they hate this idea of a registry. Of course. And they're going to be exposed. The mask is going to be taken off. They're going to come out of the shadows. They want to stay in the shadows. And the Dems want them in the shadows. And then once they're out in the open, well, then it's easy to round them up and deport them. Now, I think the genius of this is that many are going to self-deport because the message now that's really being delivered loudly and clearly is you're not welcome here anymore. There's a new president. There's a new sheriff in town. Your days are numbered. And if you don't register, we're going to find you and we're going to fine you. We're going to about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, or you may even go behind bars for up to 6 months. And many are going to say, I'm out. I don't need this. I'm gone. So you're going to see many illegals start to self-deport. So I like it for many, many reasons. But fundamentally, if we have people who broke our laws and are living in our country illegally, we have a right to know who they are, where they live, and if they pose a threat to public safety. Heather, thank you very much for that call. Dave in Revere, thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dave.
Jeff, all of them should be gone. Number one, they came in illegal. They got $10,000. They're sucking off the system. They're not working. And it's costing us money every week. And, Jeff, just for an example on this side, my Medicare got screwed up someplace in the system to where I had A and B. Then all of a sudden, my B's missing on my Medicare. So I got to pay for my own prescriptions now, and unless they get it straightened out, and I got to go down to that office tomorrow to get it straightened out. But it's just the way things are going, Jeff. They got no right to be here. And, Jeff, like I said, I know a house right here in Malden where there's 20 cars in the back of the driveway. It's like there's 20 people living in the house. I guarantee half them cars that are in that driveway now aren't even registered. Otherwise, they'd be parked on the street. Jeff, it's getting ridiculous. You know what? I like the idea where Trump's saying you got to register and take a mug shot and take your fingerprints. Jeff, they got my mug shot from years ago. It's still on file. So, let them take the mug shot. Let them go. Either that or get out.
Well, here, at the gym membership that I have, they wanted me to renew. I had to renew, and they said, well, your picture's out of date. So just to give you an example, it's a local Y. It's a YMCA. I mean, nothing fancy. And, is your address up to date? Yes. This is your personal information? Yes. No, we want to take a photograph of you for the, that the name on the card matches the face when you come in and when you swipe your card. So again, I have to take photographs all the time. I just renewed my passport. I had to take photographs for that. So, and they had to make sure that, again, they wanted to make sure my address was up to date. So we have to do this over and over and over again. We're always registering. We're always being fingerprinted. We're always being photographed. We always have to give our most up-to-date information. You're completely right, Dave, when you're talking about, your health insurance. Same thing. So, but when it comes to these illegals, what, they're special? Like, really, again, the rules don't apply to them? Like, what, they're the dreamers and we're not? Like, what, this is, again, we're third-class citizens in our own country. Illegals get better treatment than we do. And by the way, you're 1,000% correct. Many of these illegals are driving around with either no driver's licenses or now they're given state-issued driver's licenses. Their cars are not registered. Their cars are not insured. It's absolutely outrageous. And nothing ever happens to them. And you're right. You see them. Like Grace was describing Brockton. She goes, you got an apartment. There's 5, 6, 7 cars. There's 10, 12, 15 people living in an apartment. And by the way, all collecting government checks, many of them working under the table. And it's like, she goes, it's like living, it's like you're in Calcutta or in Caracas. And then you start driving around and then there's people with all these signs. I need help. I need money. And it's like, I'm in a third world hellhole. I go, well, yes, you invite the third world. You become the third world. That's exactly what's happening. So they don't respect anything. I mean, the owner, I guess he's collecting rent. I guess they pay rent. That's about it. So they don't respect our driving laws. They don't respect our employment laws. They don't respect our welfare laws. They don't respect our immigration laws. They don't respect a damn thing. And we're supposed to cater to them? No. Register them and then deport them. I'm done. Dave, as always, thank you, my friend. Bill in Raynham, thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm going to start off. I totally agree with your first call. I also have a concealed carry. They want everything except your firstborn information.
And Bill, just to the audience, because many people don't own guns, right? So just if you can explain it to them. You get fingerprinted, correct?
Fingerprinted, criminal history background. You need references.
Bill, a photograph? Did they photograph you?
Oh, yeah, you get a mugshot.
You get a mugshot. Oh, that's interesting. How about your home address? Do they get your latest home address, Bill?
They do. Yes, they do. And now with Marxist Mora's new illegal anti-Second Amendment gun law, every time you go to buy ammo, you got to fill out all the information again.
So, Bill, I don't understand something. I promise I'll give you all the time in the world. I don't understand something. It's in the freaking Constitution. Hey, God bless the Constitution. It's in the Constitution. It's the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights. Number 2, right after number 1. So, a constitutionally guaranteed right. You have to register. You have to be fingerprinted. You have to be photographed. You have to give all this personal information. I'm sorry, Bill, is the First Amendment now that illegals are untouchable? Like, I'm sorry, did I miss the memo, Bill? So a constitutionally guaranteed right, they can fingerprint you, photograph you till the cows come home. But if you're an illegal in our country, no, we can't suddenly fingerprint you. That's a violation of your civil liberties. Photograph you, get basic information, find out where you live. If you have an actually authentic, legitimate social security number, get your social security number. Like suddenly now it's verboten. This is now Nazism, Bill. So let me ask you, Bill, how come the Constitution, a guaranteed right, they have to put you through the whole rigmarole? But if you're an illegal, suddenly, Bill, you can't touch an illegal. So why is it okay to fingerprint you, photograph you, register you, but it's not okay to fingerprint, photograph, or register an illegal? Bill, could you explain that one to me? Maybe there's a clause in the Constitution, Bill, I missed. Could you educate me? Can you enlighten me, Bill?
Yeah, there are replacements, and they want to get rid of us. But the illegals are scared and all this, and it's like the residents of this state are scared. They're everywhere. I mean, I go to the supermarket and I swear I'm in Venezuela. But anything, I mean, I think what Trump's doing is good. It's going to put a scare in him. But one even better, I think one thing he forgot to do, and this is being taken out of the Democratic playbook, put a number out there, 1-800 number, to rat out these people who are living next to you or down the street from you. Quick thing, my home where I brought up my kids 30 years, I had to move. I had a bunch of Brazilian illegals move in next to me. Oh yeah, they packed the house. 15, 16 people, cars all over the place in the backyard. They were smashing into my fence, whipping beer bottles in my backyard. Called the cops numerous times. They didn't do a damn thing. Nothing. Violating zoning laws, unregistered cars, driving unregistered cars. They got away with murder, and the police had to look the other way. I'm sure they were being told to do that from their higher ups. But I'd say put that 1-800 number out.
I love it. Bill, honestly, I love it. You're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. I think it's a full court press. I think now it's time to move. It really is. Look, if we don't get a handle on this in the next 2 years before the midterms, we're never going to get a handle on this. So, I don't want to seem melodramatic, but honestly, it's now or never. It's now or never. And I think Trump is moving in the right direction. Just keep putting the pressure on them. And hopefully many, many of them will decide to self-deport. If not, we'll have to do it ourselves. We'll just deport them. But I'm sorry, you're in our country. If Bill in Raynham has to register with the government, fingerprint, photograph, name, personal information for his Second Amendment right to own a gun, then an illegal can be on a registry. Don't cry to me, the ACLU. Okay? Don't cry to me. Because I'm not buying your crocodile tears. 617-266-6868. Well, Jeff, they may all get deported. Well, they shouldn't be here to begin with. So they should have thought of that before they came into our country illegally.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Now, I gotta say, it's Sandy's brainchild. I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea. Now, it's not every week we're gonna, we always do the poll question every day. Well, every week we're gonna ask you a question, but it's gonna be truth or troll. In other words, is this serious? For example, not most, but many times I think we'll have Trump. And you know how Trump likes to troll the media or troll Democrats or troll liberals. So he will say something to get a reaction. And the question is going to be, is he serious or is he trolling? Is it truth or is it trolling? Now, it won't be Trump every week, obviously, but the point is to have a little bit of fun and to ask you, the audience, to vote. You go to WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, like you would for the poll question, and you vote on whether you think, no, this is really truth, it's serious, no, it's trolling. And we can have a lot of fun. Sandy will be doing some of the questions during the week. Other times it will be Mike. It depends. We'll be alternating. But and then you, the audience, can then weigh in on whether you think, is that a troll? Is that just trying to pushing people's buttons? Or is that person actually serious? So this is our first episode of Truth or Troll. Sandy, you're up. What is the question this week?
Well, this week's entry is President Trump, and in my opinion, a world-class troller. So here he is at CPAC this past weekend saying he's going to go to Fort Knox with Elon Musk to check on the gold. Really?
We're also going to Fort Knox. I'm going to go with Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible if we opened it up and there was no gold there? So we're going to open those doors. We're going to take a look. And if there's 27 tons of gold, we'll be very happy. I don't know how the hell we're going to measure it, but that's okay. We want to see lots of nice, beautiful, shiny gold in Fort Knox. Don't be totally surprised. We open the door. We'll say, there's nothing here. They stole this too.
What do you think? Truth or troll?
So let me ask all of you. You can vote now. Is it A, truth, B, troll? In other words, do you think Trump is like serious? Like really he wants to go open it up and, hey, the gold is gone? Or do you think he's just needling the libs a little bit? He's just trolling them. You can vote WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in national ER. Or if you prefer, you can vote via X, my handle there, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in national ER. And look, if this segment takes off, we're going to do it every week. We're going to do a specific day, a specific time, and it'll be a regular feature of the Kuhner Report at least once a week. So I'd like as many of you to participate as possible. I'm not allowed to give an answer. That was one of the conditions Sandy set, not to influence the audience. So I can't tell you if I think it's truth or troll. So it's entirely up to you, Kuhner Country. All right. Registry for illegal aliens. Good idea, bad idea. Finch in Oregon. Thanks for holding, Finch, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. It is so amazing to talk to you. I know I talked to you right before the election, and I know that you know who I am. I'm from Portland, Oregon. You know who I am. And rest in peace, your father. I haven't been able to speak to you since
Thank you, Finch. I appreciate it.
That was
Thank
big.
You.
I meant to speak to you sooner than this. But, to make it light, I do love this new thing about gold. And, I want to also say that, I've been 87 days sober today. I made a pact. If Trump won, I'm going to become sober, and I am sober right now, and I'm ready to win. But going back
like that, Finch. Finch, let me ask you this, buddy. Forget the gold, because that's just a question for the audience to vote on. Let me ask you: should illegal aliens be put on the National Registry list? Should they be put on some kind of a registry so we know who they are, where they are, fingerprint them if they have a criminal background or not? Do you think that's something that needs to be done, or do you think it's a violation of their civil rights and civil liberties, as the Democrats and the media are now claiming? Where do you stand on this, Finch?
No, that's an amazing question, Jeff. And as you're speaking as an Oregon resident and a United States citizen, definitely there should be a list. And I know in Massachusetts, I know in Oregon, I'm pretty sure in Michigan, most likely Washington, D.C., there is a list already because they were allowed to get driver's licenses. And you and I couldn't even get a job. So how did they get a driver's license? all of that is ready for Elon.
Oh, you're dead on. No, you're dead on. Look, if you're willing to give them driver's licenses, and you're right, in Oregon they have, in Michigan, in Massachusetts, in California, well, you've already got their picture and you've already got all their personal information. So what's the problem? 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. Okay, Dems going apoplectic. I don't even think does justice, really. They're going crazy, absolutely nuts over Trump's plan to now create a website which would then have illegal aliens register, kind of a national illegal alien registry. Now, just to clarify, because many of you are asking questions about certain details, those illegals that are already in deportation proceedings or who have already applied, say, for parole or the right to stay in the United States, they don't have to register. Why? Because they already have all their information. But those who we don't know any information about, which is the overwhelming majority of illegals in our country, under this plan, would have to register within a month. They have 30 days. They have to give their fingerprints, photograph, home address, personal information, so we know who they are, where they are, and obviously if they have a criminal background, whether here or in their home country. And if they don't comply, if they do not register within a month, within 30 days, they will then either be fined up to $5,000 and or go to prison for up to 6 months. Many liberals are saying, well, they can't afford the $5,000. It's going to lead to ridiculous incarceration rates. Our jails aren't going to be able to handle arresting this many people and putting them in jail. So they're coming up with every possible excuse or reason under the sun. To me, the fact of the matter is, if you're in this country illegally, we have the right to know who you are, where you are, and if you pose a threat. To me, it's just basic common sense. And I'm telling you right now, it's not 11 million. That's what they're really afraid of. If these illegals begin to register, and if I were them, I would, because I'm telling you, Trump is serious, ICE is serious, Homeland is serious, the Department of Homeland Security is very serious. If an illegal is then caught and they're not in the National Registry system, they are going to be fined or jailed on the spot. So they better register. If they do register, you're going to see the number is 25, 30, 40 million. Easy. Easy. And once that happens, I think the American people are going to say, we were told 11 million. This is 3 times, 4 times what we were told. These are massive, unsustainable numbers. And I think then the support for not just the deportation of violent criminals, but the deportation of all illegal aliens is going to skyrocket right through the roof. And I think that's a big reason why the Democrats are now in full panic mode. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Okay, very quickly. This is Kyle on Messenger. Jeff, and remember when Trump was talking about a $5,000 Doge dividend tax refund check? And you remember Jasmine Crockett, that wacko Democrat from Texas? Oh, that's $5,000. It's peanuts. It's nothing. Well, listen now to Kyle on Messenger. Jeff, last week, 5K was peanuts. This week, 5K is way too much. No one can pay that fine. Jeff, I can't keep up. Me too, Kyle. Neither can I. No, I mean, what is it? Is it peanuts? Is it it's nothing? Or now all of a sudden, who can pay this? This is an astronomical fine. All right, you can text us 70470. This is from 917. Jeff, another reason Democrats want to keep and protect illegals is it keeps the race card alive and kicking. As long as Dems keep them here and don't support the deportation, they'll always be able to accuse Republicans of being racist. Bingo, 917. They love playing that race card. The more illegals, the more they're able to play that race card. Okay, this is from 603, and it's a doozy. Jeff, the amount of illegal aliens who have purposely and illegally been allowed to invade our country is beyond epidemic levels. The drain on our system that these people cause is almost incalculable. They sneak in here, then get signed up for every welfare benefit that is offered, which is also illegal, by the way, and amounts to almost $60,000 a year in Massachusetts alone. They overwhelm our hospitals, vital emergency services, which are meant for the American public. They increase the crime rate exponentially and then illegally steal jobs from Americans. And this is the part that I think really, everything is so far, the information is dead on. But I think this is the one where I go, wow. If every illegal were forced to pay $5,000 in fines tomorrow, it wouldn't even scratch the surface of what these people are costing us. So let me get this straight. One argument is that these poor little illegals can't afford to pay a $5,000 fine, but we, the people, can afford to pay billions and billions of dollars to support these people after they invade our country and become wards of the state. I mean, you just grand slam. I mean, you talk about knocking it out of the park. You see, they can't pay $5,000, but we can literally pay, the number is $500 billion. That's what illegal immigration costs us. So they can't pay $5,000, but we as taxpayers can pay $500 billion. We can pay the billions, but they can't pay the thousands in fines. Nah, I don't think so. No, sorry. No. If you can't pay, just register. That's all. Just register. What's the problem? 617-266-6868. Paula in the Granite State. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. 1-800-ILLEGAL. They can just register by phone like we have to do everything else. You know, Jeff, let me just say this. Back when I was in the State House in 2005, 2006, I was a Democrat. That was the last time I ever had a D next to my name. They asked me to run because I was more conservative than the Republicans. I talked about the driver's license, that I refused to vote on that driver's license. Why? Because they were tracking us, the Real ID Act. And Democrats were up in arms. They're tracking us. Now, we all know I'm from New York. I came up here back in the mid-'70s. Everything was English and Spanish in New York. Now we're here. I'd like to put a sign on my mayor's lawn and say, illegal alien lives here, so they can get rid of my mayor. He is so liberal. And the thing here in the city of Nashville, when I was doing the Trump campaign, giving out signs to people, they were telling me in downtown Nashville, all the illegals living in the apartments. I can't do anything about this, but it's true. We as Americans, and I've said this for years, we have to register our jobs. When we get a job, we have to fill out the W-9 to prove that we're an American citizen, that we have the right to work in this country. Why do we have to prove who we are? And that's what I said even with the Real ID Act. Why do we have to prove who we are? And so now the explosion is here because Trump talked about it in his first election with illegals. And then under Biden, it really got massive. And now people are starting to wake up. And I'm going to say this, unless we have election integrity in this country, we're going to have the same old crap in Washington that have been sitting there for years and years and years. These are the people that embrace it like Crockett. She's back crazy there. He is a crazy lunatic.
Well, Paula, you're completely right, Paula. And look, you touched on something very, very profound. Okay, very important. Let's just play it out. Okay, just for the sake of argument, let's just play it out. The illegals throw in the towel and they go, look, forget it. We're going to lose. Let's just sign up. So all the illegals register, all of them. So there's 30, 40 million, whatever the total number is. So we know exactly who they are, their names, their criminal backgrounds, where they live. Imagine what that does now to the Democrats' voting cheating operation, to their voter fraud operation. It destroys it. Because now we know for sure how many American citizens, legitimate voters there are, and how many illegals there are. Now, and we know where they live. So we know don't send ballots there. Don't register them there. So you see, that's another major reason why they're in a full panic mode. They're in absolute meltdown. Not only are the illegals eventually going to be deported, but then we're going to find out exactly how many of them have been illegally voting for election after election after election. The whole system comes crumbling down.
One thing I said that I would never
Trump on the offensive. 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. Okay, Wall Street Journal now broke the story last evening. He's now putting together a proposal. It's a draft plan. He's now given it apparently his full authorization and approval. It'll be unveiled pretty much in the next 24 to 48 hours. A national registry for illegal aliens. It'll be a website, an online website, obviously, that illegal aliens within 30 days are going to have to go and register their names, their addresses, their fingerprints, their photographs, their personal identification, their personal info. If they do not, within 30 days, they will face a fine of up to $5,000 and or up to 6 months in jail. To say all hell is broken loose is an understatement. The Democrats now are vowing a fight to the death. The media is already claiming Trump is getting ready for his concentration camps. This is fascism. This is Nazism, blah, 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 blah. My friends, what it really shows, as we were talking about just before the break, one of the many benefits of this national registry is that it will now really shed a spotlight on the rampant voter fraud. Because if every illegal must now register, we will know, A, how many illegals are in the country, and I guarantee you it's a lot more than the 11 million number that the media keeps throwing out. And then we're going to start to find out how many of them have been voting in how many elections. And it'll be almost impossible then for the Democrats to cheat in the future using illegal aliens. The whole corrupt voting fraud system that they have erected will come crashing down. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Transparency, openness, light is how you defeat the Prince of Darkness. Remember, evil always likes to lurk in the shadows. Illegals love to stay in the shadows. This is now going to draw them into the open, into the light, and into the public. And that's one thing they don't want. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Jose in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jose, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. Before I get to my points about the illegals registering, I also had a great idea for a new segment on Kuhner Country. It's called Victory Over Liberals, and how it works is like this. It's not a competition. A caller calls up and he tells a quick story how he had a victory over a liberal. For example, I was down the beach the other day with my leftovers. I like to give them to the seagulls. So I go down there with my container. I look left. I look right. I'm not stupid. I'm not ignorant. I know people don't like to see seagulls flocking around them. So I dumped the container on the seawall. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this pink-haired liberal shows up, and she's saying, she got the bumper stickers and everything. She's saying, that's not the proper diet for those seagulls.
I said, lady, these things can digest rocks. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's like ziti and sausage and all this stuff. So she said, nevertheless, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, okay, lady, you win, whatever. Have a nice day. I turn around to leave. The seagull takes a big dump on her head.
Well, you see, even the seagulls don't like the moon bats. Lay off my ziti. Jose, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Jose, my friend, what do you make of this national registry? Are you for it or are you against it?
President Trump is a genius. Bravo, President Trump. Now, you touched on my point a little bit. Not only does it encourage self-deportation, you said it. It prevents illegals from living in the shadows, and that's what they do. Now, my question is, Elon Musk, President Trump, Doge, how many of these illegals are phantom federal employees? And you're right. Let's deport all the illegals, then take a census. Let's deport all the illegals, then let's have an election. And also, we got to put Finch in the penalty box.
No, Jose, look, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Look, again, to everybody, stand back for a second. Imagine this is successful, completely successful, okay? 1,000% effective. So we're going to find out there's 30, 35, 40 million illegals. So we know where they are. So now we can deport all of them. Imagine 40 million illegals gone. Now imagine what that does to our whole country. The whole thing changes. There's plenty of money for education. There's plenty of money for healthcare. There's plenty of money for roads. There's plenty of money for everything. Okay, that's number one. Number two, as Jose rightly said, look at what happens to the census. Do you know the congressional representation that California, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, Oregon, Washington State, those blue states, they're going to bleed congressional seats. Huge. I mean, the red states are going to pick up 15, 20, 25 seats. The Democrats will never be able to hold power again. I'm talking congressionally now. And then you add what this does to the elections. So they don't have illegals now to help them steal the elections? Suddenly, blue states become purple states. Purple states become red states. The whole political makeup of the United States, snap of a finger, is transformed. So now you know why it's Hitler and fascism and concentration camps and it's the greatest civil liberties violation since the internment of Japanese Americans. I mean, you got to see them. They're losing their minds. Now you know why they're going crazy against this proposal, because it will destroy their power and their project to create one-party Democrat rule. So, Jose, I agree with you. I think it's brilliant. I think the only flaw, if there is a flaw, is they got to try to make sure that they can get as many of these illegals to register as possible. Because I think even with 6 months in jail, even with a $5,000 fine, some will self-deport, I agree. But I think many are going to say, I'm still staying and I'm not registering. Like, I'll chance it. And watch, sanctuary cities are now going to be even more sanctuary because they're telling the illegals don't register because they know if the illegals register, it's game over. So I'd like to see a little bit more teeth in the enforcement of this. But otherwise, I think it's a splendid proposal. Jose, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Scott in Revere. Thanks for holding, Scott. And as always, welcome.
Jeff, I love you. Do not tuck you away, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. You always say with such gusto and pep. You know, with such intensity. I really appreciate it. Scott, do you like this idea? Do you not like this idea?
You know, I love the idea, Jeff. I do. I absolutely love this idea. And for all the reasons you're given. But you know what cracks me? Why would we ever, if citizens of America, why would we ever give the Democrats another chance? They literally stole, raped, and pillaged kids around the world, and in America, for that matter. And why would we ever let these people get another chance at running anything but a dog catcher?
You know, Scott, that's an excellent point. And Scott, just to, I promise I'll let you finish, I'll let you finish what you want to say. But, you know, you mentioned the kids. You touched on that, right? They were pillaging and destroying but under Biden, they let in what, 10, 11, 12 million illegals? And the incredible destruction, the damage, the death that was done. How many? Laken Riley, obviously, is example number one. But they also let in 500,000 children, unaccompanied minors, many of whom were sex trafficked. Now, I think that's another reason why they're petrified of this registry. Now we're going to start to find out, where are those children? What happened to those kids? Because it requires children ages 14 and over to register. So we're going to start to find out to which homes and in which counties and in which cities and in which states all of these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied minors were sent to be used for prostitution or sexual slavery or, God forbid, whatever else they've been using them for. So that's another scandal that they're desperately trying to sweep under the rug. They don't want us to find out where all those children went. Because I'm telling you, Scott, as you rightly said, most of them went into the homes and into the hands of Democrats, powerful Democrats, wealthy Democrats, well-connected Democrats. Whether it's Hollywood, whether it's the scumbag politicians in Washington, whether it's on Wall Street, because sex trafficking, child trafficking is big business. And Biden opened the floodgates. Scott, what say you?
And that's why I love you and our sexual age, Jeff Kuhner.
Scott, thank you very much for that call. No, you nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. See, that's it. So this national registry, look, I'm not saying it's a silver bullet. It's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it solves everything, but it opens the door to so much. Why? Because again, sunlight, transparency, openness. So that's why they're panicking. So you mean you're going to know every illegal that's in America? You mean they're going to have to register? You'll have their names, their social security number, their tax ID, their addresses, their latest home address, their fingerprints, their headshots, their photographs. That means they're all out of the shadows. We can't operate our globalist new world order like this. It's game, set, match. And look, and Elon says once we, and by the way, I think someone said that many of them are phantom federal employees. I agree. I will bet you, please don't take up my bet because I don't want you to keep losing stakes. Okay? I will bet you the best freaking steak at your steakhouse of choice. Many of these state jobs, local jobs, federal so-called bureaucrat jobs, government jobs, illegal aliens are holding them. I guarantee you. I guarantee it. And that's another thing they're petrified. They're going to say, well, who's getting all the money? We can now track the accounts. We can track the tax IDs. We can track the social security numbers. We can track the names. And how many of them are actually holding, forget jobs, which is illegal, right? They're stealing private sector jobs. And I'm not talking about cooks and and working in restaurants and in construction and textiles or wherever these illegals work. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about government jobs. How many of them have been getting a salary from us? Because that's how the Democrats want to make sure that their clients are well taken care of. This is going to open up a massive Pandora's box. You think Doge has been the mother of all scandals. You wait till they register all of the illegals. Holy shamoly. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Tommy in West Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
You know, Jeff, one reason why your program has been so successful, you are the only talk show host I know that you can actually have a conversation with. In other words, if a caller calls in and makes a point, you don't just hang up on them. You have a dialogue. That's why your show, you get calls from South Dakota and California, and you're in Boston. Somebody's getting up at 3 in the morning to call into your program. Anyway.
Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so with regards to immigration, my first wife, whom I met the fall of '83, I was working a construction job at Logan Airport. She came from Haiti. She had to be quarantined for a week in a hospital in Miami. She came here legally. Now, my fiance in the Philippines, because I'm divorced, she has to go through an interview at the American consulate in Manila. Part of that interview process, part of the applying for a fiance visa, the K-1 visa, is, one, she has to have a criminal background check on her. Two, she has to have biometrics. Biometrics is fingerprinting. Take off your glasses, and we take a photo of you. And that didn't happen with the 15 million asylum seekers that Biden let in. Now, with regards to what other callers have said about people not registering their cars or letting their insurance expire, Portland, Oregon had a huge problem with prostitution in the early 90s, and they figured out how to deal with the Johns driving through mainly the black neighborhood of northeast Portland. If you were caught picking up a streetwalker, they would impound your vehicle and then auction it off at a public event. So that meant if you had an automobile that you owned outright, you would lose your automobile. Massachusetts, if they catch an illegal alien, and I wish a police officer would call in, because I have talked to Brockton cops, that when they find someone that their insurance expired, they just let them go. And here's the problem, that if an illegal gets into an automobile accident with you, they have no insurance. You're screwed, and unless you have, a very high insurance premium that will allow medical what have you, you're nailed. Now, the other thing is that with regards to illegals doing jobs like roofing, Brockton has a very large...
Tommy, hold on. I promise I'll let you finish, but I just want you to complete your thought. Tommy, are you saying the way they solved the prostitution problem in Portland, well, one of the ways we can help solve the illegal aliens driving without insurance, car insurance, is if they're pulled over, say in Massachusetts, and they don't have insurance, we impound the car and then we sell it, correct? Is that what you're suggesting?
That is correct, as long as there's no lien on the automobile. So in other words, because you can't take the bank's property like that. But if the car is owned outright, in other words, they own the title, yeah, take the car.
I love it.
Because, all right, anyway.
I love it. Honestly, Tommy, I love it. I love it. I think it's a great idea. Think about it. Then if an illegal knows he's going to get caught, let's say a ticket or whatever, an accident, and he's got no insurance and he's going to lose his car, he'll get insurance. They'll find the money, Tommy. It'll be incredible how they find the money. You're on a roll, Tommy. Please keep going.
Okay, now with regards to Brockton has a large Central American community. Most of them are good people. They're into roofing. But here's the issue. If Tommy from West Virginia owns a roofing company and he hires 10 guys from Guatemala to do the roofing, and I pay them with what's called a 1099 federal form, I do not have to supply them with workman's compensation insurance. Now, if Tommy hires them and they are W-2 employees where local taxes are taken out, state taxes, and federal taxes, I, by law, and your listeners can Google it, I have to have workman's comp insurance. And I have this one nitwit I went to high school with that posted his house down the Cape. I'm hiring Guatemalan immigrants to do my roof. They're hardworking people. Well, yeah, we know that, all right? Stop virtue signaling. But when I posted to him the fact that, well, you should ask the roofing company, are they 1099 employees or are they W-2 wage earners? There's a big difference. And here's the thing. If it's 1099, yes, they're required to file their own taxes, which you basically take a one-third hit between federal, state, and Social Security. But that employer does not have to provide them with workman's comp because they are essentially subcontractors working for him. And if Chico falls off the roof and breaks his leg, guess what? He doesn't sue the employer. He sues you, the homeowner. And don't think if that starts happening in this country when these immigrants figure this out, hey, wait a minute. You know what? If I call Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, this guy who owns $1 million house down in Bourne, I can take him to the cleaners.
Tommy, excellent. You know what? I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that possible angle. So, look, you're right. That's why, look, it's just trouble. When you flood your country with not just illegal aliens, but a massive underclass, and you have them start stealing American jobs and working under the table, all on the black market, it's just trouble. It's trouble for everybody. It's trouble for American workers. It's trouble for American citizens. It's trouble ultimately even for those who hire them. Tommy, as always, one of our best callers. Tommy, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask all of you. It is the question of the day, in many ways the question of the moment. Should illegal aliens be made to register online on a national registry list? Every single illegal alien. I say yes. The left is going berserk. What say you? All of your calls, I promise, next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me throw a very quick log on the fire. Obviously, the National Registry for Illegal Aliens is the big topic of the day. But let me just quickly add this and see what you think of it. Trump is not proposing a kind of if you want to call it a snitch line. He's not proposing, at least so far, 1-800 illegal aliens. In other words, just a number to call in where you can report, say, on an apartment or a house or whatever. You say, hey, look, they're definitely illegals there. Here's the address. Here's the street. Here's where they are. Just check it out. Trust me. So are they on the list? Are they not on the list? Well, see if they're registered. And have citizens, help out with identifying illegal aliens. It's you register, the illegal alien has to register. If not, within 30 days, there's going to be either up to a $5,000 fine or up to 6 months in jail. How about if Trump added, whatever you want to call it, a hotline, a snitch line, 1-800 illegal aliens, whereby citizens just add even more pressure on illegals to register, saying we're not just going to be fined or go to jail if they find out we haven't registered, but there's also a number so neighbors can call on us. And they maybe start inquiring whether we've registered or not. This could be another way to pressure them, to force them to register or to self-deport, obviously, but to register as an illegal. What do you make of that argument? Should we have or should we establish a 1-800 illegal aliens hotline, tip line, snitch line, whatever you want to call it? I love it. I think we should do it. To use Maura Healey's phrase, every tool in the toolbox to force illegals to register, so to get them out of the shadows. Now, the counter argument, as you know, is this pits neighbor against neighbor. Now you're starting, you're encouraging people to spy on each other, to snitch on each other. There's going to be false accusations made against certain people, certain, say, legal immigrants who maybe don't speak the best English, and someone thinks, well, maybe they're illegal. They may be harassed by this. So there is the possibility that innocent people will be caught up in this tip line or hotline. And so you're potentially harassing citizens who are here, or residents who are here legally. I say it's worth it. Even if it's not used often, the fact that illegals know it's out there and that they could be reported on, I think is going to give them an extra incentive or even more pressure to register. And the more that register, the better. I like the idea of a 1-800 tip line. Do you? 617-266-6868. Eric in Boston. Thanks for holding, Eric, and welcome.
Hey, I love the idea of the I don't like the idea of the phone line.
Okay.
Because there will be false accusations, and people that are against this will call on and make false accusations to put it in the news. But I do love Trump's idea
of a national registry. You like the registry idea?
Oh, yes, it's brilliant. Because after 30 days, they're breaking the law. So then they can go into these Healy hotels and stuff, round everyone up, grab them, bring them somewhere. If they're not registered, impound all their stuff, send them home. If they're collecting on government money, that's illegal now, send them home. If they did register, you give them a date for a trial to be deported right then and there.
Well, and just to add to what you're saying, Eric, say, you find out, say, an illegal hasn't registered. Say the 30-day period is over. And now one of them is pulled over or whatever, detained. So to me, I would just say this. You got a $5,000 fine. Oh, you can't pay the $5,000 fine? Automatic deportation. In other words, almost like say, okay, fine. You can pay the fine, and then we'll have you in the system, and then you'll have your court date or your immigration hearing or whatever. But if you can't pay the fine, out you go. Or if you don't want to do the 3 months in jail or the 4 months or the 6 months or whatever it is, out you go. So you're right. I would then use it as a further weapon, as a further tool to encourage them deport, self-deport, leave. So now the Wall Street Journal hates the idea because they're saying, well, you're further criminalizing what they're calling, undocumented illegals or undocumented immigrants. Yes, further criminalize them. Of course, good. The more that leave, the better. 8:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. All right, Trump goes for the knockout blow, at least when it comes to illegal immigration. He has secured the southern border. There's no question now. Immigration now, the border crossings have plummeted dramatically. In some areas, I'm not kidding, Border Patrol is starting to complain. They have nothing to do. Really, I'm telling you. They're like, we don't do anything all day. That's good. That's good. That means it's working. Other areas, like in some of the parts of the Texas-Mexican border, they're encountering 10, 12, 15 illegals the whole day trying to come in. It is like night and day compared to what it was under Biden. So the border is now getting secured. Mass deportations are ramping up. They are now starting to begin an aggressive process of deporting many criminal, violent, illegal aliens. Now Trump wants a national registry online whereby every single illegal alien would have to comply, register their names, addresses, identification number, or a tax ID number, their ID information, and their fingerprints and photographs. If they do not comply within 30 days, they will face fines and or up to 6 months in jail. What about a 1-800 number? I'm getting a lot of people messaging the Kuhner man. Larry is one of them, but there are many others who are saying, Jeff, why was it acceptable to set up snitch lines for reporting lockdown violations during COVID? Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's a very good argument. They had no problem setting up these 1-800 snitch lines, tip lines, hotlines. Oh, this person doesn't have a mask. Oh, this person isn't social distancing. Oh, this person just left the house. Oh, this person's not vaccinated. Oh, so when they had that snitch line to harass people who weren't taking the jab or, weren't obeying their authoritarian, draconian COVID lockdowns, that was okay. Suddenly, a 1-800 number to report people that are here illegally. And it's the greatest civil rights violation of all time. No, I'm sorry. Every weapon, every arrow in the quiver. If you can use it, use it. Agree, disagree. Ann on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Ann, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
Good. I'm a CPA. 10 years ago, I was asked to represent I wasn't a client of ours, but represent a landscaping company with an IRS audit. They audited them because they had $500,000 worth of labor costs. The agent came in and said, did you issue a W-2? No. Do you issue 1099? No. It's a 30% penalty. Can you get me, the information, and I can file the 1099s? The IRS agent was going to file them. So I said, I can do that. Went to the office, got the I-9s required by Massachusetts for employment, copies of Social Security cards, driver's license, yada, yada, yada. Go to the agent. She opens up her laptop, goes to put the Social Security number in. She said, fraud. I said, what? And she said, fraud. I said, oh, my God. I said, this is so real. And she said, yep, you can get a driver's license and a Social Security card for $500. And she said, I can't issue this 1099 because poor Amy in Brookline is going to get a 1099 from the landscaping company. And then she was told by the top brass in the IRS, drop the case. We don't want to harass employers in Framingham.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I can't even believe it. Then the IRS agent told me the other scam, this is why it's systemic. Insurance companies will give you a commercial plate with a valid Brazilian driver's license. So the insurance companies are in the scam. The IRS agents are dropping cases. It's a systemic, long-term problem. Oh, and I'm going to say one last thing to all the people in the audience. I was horrified, and I actually want to call ICE on them. Associated Industries of Massachusetts, huge organization, sent out an email and said, employers, here is a flyer to put in your places of business, and it gives the illegals have rights. If an ICE raid comes...
Oh, Ann, you're right. But you're completely right. Don't get me wrong. But it's Mayor Wu. Mayor Wu has just come out. Did you see this? So again, Marxist Michelle Wu came out. She met these religious leaders. This was in Boston. She met with imams. She met with priests. She met with Protestant pastors, with rabbis. She meets with everybody. Okay. And they come out and say, oh, not only are we going to make Boston a further sanctuary city against ICE and these raids, but she's also telling illegals, you have rights. You have rights. You don't have to comply with ICE. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to give all your personal information. So it's not just businesses. You're right, Ann. Don't get me wrong. But it's not just businesses that are doing this. This is coming straight from the political top. They're doing it in Mass. They're doing it in California. They're doing it in Chicago. In Chicago and L.A., it just came out. Kristi Noem has now confirmed it. There were leaks within the FBI and within the Department of Homeland Security tipping off illegals that ICE raids were about to begin, so they could escape ICE and get away. So, the deep state is real. There's no question. And look at their allegiance. It's not to the United States. It's to these strangers and foreigners who've come into our country and broken our laws. And from what I've heard from this is police officers that have told me this, and I don't just mean one or two, dozens and dozens and dozens, in towns, not just in Massachusetts, in New Hampshire and in other places around the country. You can get a Social Security card or a driver's license for $500. I hear you can get it for $250 or $200 in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven. So there are fraudulent Social Security numbers, and I'm telling you, a lot of our checks are going there. That's where they're collecting a lot of these scam checks. And there's a lot of fraudulent driver's licenses. So that's why they don't want them registered. Once they're registered, then we're going to find out they've committed ID fraud, document fraud, welfare fraud. You name the fraud, they've committed it. Tax fraud. I could go on and on. And thank you for that call. Skippy in South Boston. Thanks for holding, Skippy, and welcome.
How you doing, Jeff?
Hi, Skippy.
Just think about our dear leader, former dear leader. He had a phony Social Security number from a dead guy in Connecticut. But as you say, let that go. That's probably where they learned from. Jeff, that $5,000 fine, that sounds great to me, 6 months. And you know what? People squawking. They should realize Trump's in good company with Pope Francis because he's got even stricter guidelines, so they shouldn't squawk. Trump, Musk, Vance, they should keep hammering them all. The deep state, the dirty media, the dirty pot, and the lunatic left. You know what, Jeff? Big Pharma should send Trump and company a big check because they're going to make more money for selling psych meds and sleeping pills with all these people that the walls are closing in on. I hope they just go at them with hammer and tong.
Skippy, I think the illegals now, for the first time, are sensing they're in big trouble. You can now that registry has sent shockwaves. I know Holman is scaring them. I know these ICE raids are scaring them. But they thought, well, if I'm not a gangbanger, if I'm not a murderer, if I'm not a rapist, they'll leave me alone. Now they're starting to realize, no. Trump is going after all of us. I mean, he's going to do it in phases, obviously, but he's going after all of us. And Skippy, I've been saying this for a long time. If you cut off the welfare, if you cut off the government money, and you cut off the ability for them to get hired, okay, you use some kind of verification system, employer verification system, so that employers get fined, they get hammered if they should hire an illegal. If they can't work and they can't skim the system and collect a welfare check, what are they going to do? They have to go back. So there are many, many ways for us to force these illegals to eventually leave. We just have to be willing to apply the pressure. And what Trump is now showing for the first time, in my lifetime. I know he tried it in the first term, but especially now, he's going to apply the pressure and apply it big. Another story and a big one coming up next. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, Dr. Grace is warming up in the bullpen. She'll be on in about 10 minutes. Let me throw another log on the fire, as I like to say. Big story. Wanted to get to it a little bit earlier, but frankly, this topic has just been popping all morning. There is a huge poll out. I'm sure all of you have heard about it. The Harvard-Harris poll, which shows that Trump, on issue after issue after issue, is killing it. Whether it be on deportations, the border, the economy, peace with Ukraine, DEI, biological men competing in women's sports. He's got overwhelming support on almost everything he's been doing his first month in office. What the poll also looked at, and this result is stunning, is the attitude of Democrats towards Biden's years in power. And in particular, because it ties directly to what we're talking about today, what Democrats now admit, it's in overwhelming numbers, okay, supermajority numbers, was that opening the border was a disaster. It was a disaster for the country, they now admit it, and it was a disaster for them politically. In fact, most Democrats now recognize it was one of the key reasons why Biden was forced out by Kamala and Kamala lost the election. In other words, that the border cost Biden, Harris, and the Democrat Party the election to Donald Trump. They admit it. They can see that now. But here's what's shocking about the poll. 75% of Democrats, and this is sincere on their part. This is not them playing games or mind games. They are genuinely sincere that Joe Biden opened the border and allowed this massive inflow of 10, 11, 12 million illegal aliens to pour into our country by accident. That's the word the Democrats use again and again. 75% say it was accidental. It wasn't deliberate. It wasn't premeditated. It wasn't part of some larger plan. No. According to Democrats in this Harvard-Harris poll, it just sort of happened. The issue just got away from Biden. He didn't mean to do it. He didn't intend to do it. It was an accident. It was just, he just wasn't keeping his eye on the ball. I swear to you. That's what 3/4 of all Democrats now claim. Now, why is this such a big story? Because it shows a couple of things. And I want to go quick because I want to take some calls before Grace is on the air. But what it shows is how frighteningly out of touch most Democrats are. That they don't get it. And they still don't get it. We told them that Biden was going to flood the country with illegals. He then flooded the country with illegals. And then we told them again, as the country was being flooded with illegals, that Biden is flooding the country with illegals. And they never listened. This is the scary thing, is they finally now have realized the border cost us power. That the issue of illegal immigration and how bad it got under Joey cost us the White House, cost us Congress, cost us everything. But it wasn't Biden's fault. He didn't mean to do it. It was all some kind of grand accident. So when he announced that he was going to open up the border, that was accidental. When he deliberately overturned all of Trump's executive orders, that was accidental. When he secretly flew them across the country on these flights, loading up these illegals in planes and flying them around the country at night, that was accidental. when he deliberately had them get welfare benefits, that was accidental? How deluded do you have to be? And what it really, this is, I think, what's shocking about the poll, among many other things. Yes, they're disconnected from reality. Yes, they don't understand the Biden presidency. Yes, it's shocking. How could this guy have allowed this for 4 years and it was all some kind of an accident? What they're really saying is that he was mentally gone the whole time. That's what they're really, really saying. You mean he didn't notice when the border was being overwhelmed? He didn't notice when we kept saying over and over again, there's a crisis at the border? He didn't notice when the first couple million came in, and then a couple million more, and then a couple million more, and then a couple million more? So he was that out to lunch. He was so cognitively and mentally in decline that this guy couldn't grasp the fact that he had lost control of the border, even though the whole world was telling him this, even though the whole country was telling him this. I'm telling you right now, what this poll result shows is that the Democratic Party is on the path towards political suicide. And if they continue to be in this kind of fundamental denial, they're finished. This party is finished, at least for a generation. And so let me throw it open to you in all seriousness. What do you account? What accounts for the fact? What do you think accounts for the fact that 3/4 of all Democrats think that the border invasion and the border crisis under Joe Biden was quote unquote accidental? That it wasn't deliberate, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't premeditated. Why would Democrats think this? And what does this say about the liberal mind? Are they hopelessly out of touch? Are they unable, seriously, to grasp reality and grasp what the real intentions of the Biden presidency were? And that was to unleash this invasion, to destroy this country, to flood us with third world illegal aliens. That was the plan from the beginning, and Biden executed it to a T. Why can't Democrats acknowledge this fundamental fact? 617-266-6868. Gordon in Vermont. Thanks for holding, Gordon, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Gordon.
I remember going back to the early 60s at least, they used to have public service ads on the TV and maybe on the radio said aliens must register. I think it was like every February or something. It used to be the regular thing that people were supposed to register. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Well, I do know that the law was passed, was it 1940 or early 40s, and it was enforced for 20 years. Over 20 years. So, yeah, you're right. It was television ad after television ad, newspaper ads, radio ads. This went on till the early, mid-1960s. If you're in this country and you're not a U.S. citizen, you could be even on a green card. You still had to register. So that's why Trump is saying, what's the problem? We've done it in our country for a long time. It's been clear precedent. There were previous laws that were passed. What's the big deal? Gordon, ultimately, do you think the American people are going to side with this? Are they going to side with Trump on this issue?
I mean, it's no matter how idealistic you are, you start seeing the reality of you're being overwhelmed, and there's not enough stuff at the stores, and half the people there, don't speak the language. I certainly, when I was younger, there was lots of people that came, after World War II. There was Italians and others, and of course we sympathize with them, new Americans and all that. But there comes a point where it's just too much. And right now, these are people who are from the indigent, from fourth world countries, who don't speak the language, they're arrogant, have a horrible attitude, and they just, as far as they're concerned, I think they're just the answer to Christopher Columbus. They're going to take this whole hemisphere back as far as they can, if they can help it, and they have to be deported. It's too bad. I'm sorry, but it's just not enough room for everybody in the third world here in this country.
Well, Gordon, they did a recent survey. This was a global poll. And according to this global poll, listen to this, 3 billion, with a B, 3 billion people said that their number one country, their destination, if they could immigrate to, was the United States. Now, the liberal argument is keep the borders open. Anybody who wants to come should be allowed to come. And once they're in, and you can't send them back. Well, I'm telling you right now, this is national suicide. No country can absorb billions and billions of people pouring in. It will swamp us. It will destroy us. So this is how insane the left has become. And this is what happens. You see, look, this is the dangerous argument that the left is pushing. That you're a racist. You're a fascist. You're Hitler if you want to control your country's borders. Well, as Trump rightly said, you don't have borders, you don't have a country. And that means you're basically telling the whole world they have a right to come to your country. Well, then you're going to be swamped and overwhelmed. And that's what's already happening now. And that's with what, 30 million, 40 million? We'll eventually find out if they have this registry, how many are in our country. How many more do you want to bring in? Another 50? Another 100? Another 200? Another 300? It's madness. Literally, it's madness. And that's why I think Trump on this issue has got over 80% support among the American people. Gordon, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. Okay, joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Grace Voto, yes, full disclosure, I married up. She's my better half. Grace, I gotta ask you, let's take it, the second one first. This shock poll from Harvard-Harris that 75% of Democrats now agree that the border and unlimited immigration cost them the election, cost them Congress, cost them everything. But the same 75% say it wasn't done on purpose. It was all accidental. Joe Biden didn't mean to do it. What say you?
They're lying. Jeff, they are lying. Because if they have to now admit that the policy is a huge mistake, if they also admit that it was deliberate, they would bear even more responsibility for the catastrophic 4 years. But by saying, yes, it was a mistake, but it was accidental, it's typical liberal deflecting responsibility for their deeds. They are lying.
Is Biden responsible for the death? Laken Riley is Exhibit A, but there's so many who died because of illegals that were allowed to come in, never mind the fentanyl and the drugs, the massive economic devastation, the destruction, the drain on our welfare system, everything now that we've had to endure. Is Joe Biden ultimately to blame? And what was his plan? What was his reasoning? You flood the country with illegals. Didn't he know it was going to be a disaster? Didn't he know the people would rebel?
Well, Jeff, listen, there's no question about it that Biden has blood on his hands. He was on the path to systematically destroying this country. We ultimately still have to nail him for this, in the sense that we said many times during his presidency that his actions were so treasonous. He was obviously in the pocket of foreign governments, and I would like to see the Trump administration continue to explore that. But there's no question that everything Biden did was deliberate. It was a deliberate assault of this country's sovereignty. We knew it. We were calling it out in real time. And we know this because they were repeatedly lying to us. They were telling us that, oh, this border surge, it always happens seasonally. It's not true. There's another huge report that has come out. There's an article called Biden's Lies About the Border Are Now Plain for All to See. He was even lying about that this surge is seasonal. The surge had nothing to do with forces that we couldn't control. The surge at the border was based on his deliberate rescinding of every single law and policy that had kept the border secure. So it was a deliberate policy by Biden, and the liberals knew what was going on and what they were doing, and now nobody wants to take responsibility for the disaster.
The National Registry that Trump is now proposing, you know better than I do. I think MSNBC. I think they're going to get heart attacks on the air today. I'm telling you, I think that's it. We're going to see a live death on the air today, the way they're losing their minds. So I've got to ask you, Trump is now proposing a registry online for every single illegal alien in this country. They have to fill out a registration form, their address, their identification, their information, a fingerprints. They have to provide fingerprints, a photograph. And after 30 days, if they do not comply, they will either be fined up to $5,000 or up to 6 months in jail. His opponents are saying it's fascism, it's a violation of the civil liberties of illegal aliens, and it's a precursor now to what they call death camps, concentration camps, detention camps, the rounding up of all illegals. What say you?
Well, Jeff, every single person in this country, every single citizen has government records. So if it's not fascist, it's not dictatorial for every American citizen to be registered in some way with the government, why do those standards not apply to the illegals? That's a preposterous argument. Every single person that is here should be registered. We need to know who they are. And I think it's a brilliant plan because if they don't comply, that makes them, having committed a crime, and then that makes them front and center ready for deportation. So I think that Donald Trump is restoring law and order. The registry is an important step to doing this, and even more important to ending this entire crisis is what he has done to completely end benefits to illegals. That is really the huge headline. He's going to end all federal spending on anybody here illegally. That means if you combine the strict policies at the border, the registry, and just turn off that tap of federal funding, we're going to finally clean up this huge mess.
Grace, do you think that part of the reason why he's pushing this national registry for illegal aliens is to really start pressuring and incentivizing, whatever word you want to use, to encourage illegals self-deport? We don't want you. Get the message. Get out before we fine you or jail you. Is that part of the reason? In other words, encourage them, vamos, leave?
Well, I think what he's doing is there's a squeeze in every direction. So you seal the border, you stop all federal funding dollars to illegals, you deport the criminals. Now you're asking those who are here in the shadows to come out of the shadows, and if you don't do that, then you're automatically classified as one of the criminals that is first in line for deportation. So basically what he's doing is he's reducing all the incentives for coming, he's reducing all the incentives for staying, and he's reducing all the incentives for staying out of the shadows, for staying in the shadows. So basically he's just squeezing them so that ultimately what we're left with if we're left with a batch of illegals that, he's not going to be able to deport those, at least those are the most compliant with our laws and our systems and our requirements. So that's what he's doing. He's trying to reduce the pile of people that are here to the ones who are the most in accordance with this country's rules, regulations, and laws.
Dr. Grace, about a minute left. E-Verify. I'm a big supporter of E-Verify. Should employers be fined? Should they even go to jail if they hire illegals and knowingly hire illegals?
Jeff, if you want the game, set, match to any crazy rhetoric that the liberals are going to pound, it is to also be tough on the employers, be tough on the corporations. The moment that Donald Trump does that, then the administration can say, we did not privilege anybody. We didn't privilege the rich. We didn't privilege the corporations. We didn't privilege employers. We applied American laws equally and fairly. There is one system of justice. This is going to inoculate and destroy any liberal counter argument. He has to do that also right away. Show us that he is tough on the oligarchs, on the corporations, just as much as he's going to be tough on the impoverished, poor migrants that have poured in illegally.
We have been talking with Grace Vuoto, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. She's basically saying all of the above. Put pressure on every front, on every side. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, just a quick reminder. Today's poll question is, are truth and troll? Is it or truth or troll? It's a new segment now that we're trying out today. You can vote when Trump said about the gold bars at Fort Knox that they're going to open up the vault and see if there's any gold, or was it all stolen? Was he speaking the truth? Like, he's serious? Or was he just trolling liberals? You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn is in national ER. And as always, you can vote on my handle on X at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn is in national ER. And as always, the Kuhner Country Poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Frank in Hanson. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Frank.
Listen, in regards to that registry, I'm pretty good at knowing what's going to happen in the future. That registry, you're going to have very minimal voters. They're not going to come through at this time unless there's more teeth into it. And the reason why I'm telling you that is I was a police officer for 34 years, and I observed a lot of stuff. And with the minorities, they push you to the end, and that's what's going to happen with these people. They're going to push you, and these moonbats, like you call them, are going to put out on the internet, don't register. They'll have it everywhere. It'll be flooded. So you're going to get a very minimal sign-up. And that's the first thing we'll talk. I'll listen to you talk about that after. Then the second thing, you had a guy called Tommy. He talked about Brockton. He talked about how police officers told him, just let the car go. Well, when I was a police officer, that was called an outlaw on the highway. And if you let that car go and you know it was unregistered and it got in an accident, it was case law that you could be sued. The police officer could be sued. And you were supposed to have it towed right at that spot. So that's the second one. And then the third one was, I used to fingerprint naturalization people. And they'd come in, and the wife would come in with the husband, and I'd do the wife or vice versa. And I'd say, don't you want it done? The other spouse would say, no. And I says, well, okay. So then after a while, I got wise, and the same girl would keep bringing people up. And I'd do the husband, but I wouldn't do the wife or vice versa. So I finally said to this girl, well, why? And they said because one wants to become a citizen of the United States, the other doesn't, because they'll both have 2 Social Security checks to go back to their home country and live like kings. And so that's a big scam that they pulled back in the late 70s when I was doing the fingerprinting. But I want to listen to you now, Jeff.
Frank, before you go, I got to ask you, because you're saying, Jeff, there's not enough teeth, there's not enough punishment in this, that many of them are not going to sign up. They're going to be told not to sign up. So you think a $5,000 fine or 6 months in jail, you don't think that's enough, Frank? What would you recommend? Because Trump's people listen, trust me. What do you think the punishment needs to be? How do you add more teeth, more bite to this? What would you recommend?
Do they get the $5,000 to begin with? You think Maura Haley's going to say, okay, let me start, I'm putting $2 on medicine, all your prescriptions, let me start $2 on this, $2 on that, so I can build up the kitty, so I can give you this $5,000? They don't have the $5,000, Jeff. You know that. They got, I go to BJ's, I go to a shop, their carriages is filled, and they're filled with stuff because they got that state card, their state credit card, or whatever you want to call it, the debit card.
Yeah, the EBT card. Yeah, EBT.
It's getting by, Jeff. I'm telling you, it's going to be very, very minimal sign up. But you know something? I want to tell you, my buddy that I work with, I'm meeting him here now at Lowe's in West Bridgewater. We're going to Plainridge. We do it twice a year. He's a retired police officer, and he told me to listen to you. And I called you several months ago, and I never listened to you because I don't listen to AM radio. I started listening to you, and when I hear you in the morning, when I put it on, hey, this is the Jeff Kuhner show, you put a smile on my face. You know, you and Donald Trump are fighting for this country so bad, and I only wish that Donald had 4 more years after this term, because we have to keep these policies going, and I hope the Republicans get smart and they fight, and that in the midterms we got to keep both the House and Senate. Otherwise, we're going to go back to this. They're going to attack Trump again when he's done, and they're going to go back to the same old policies. But I love your show. Now I just want to hear you talk, or people talk, whoever call in, and I'll just listen to you.
Thank you, Frank, and great call. I really appreciate it. You make an excellent point. Actually, excellent points. Frank, thanks again, and thanks for your service. I really appreciate it. All right, look, let's put it on the table, because I think Frank has touched on a real issue here. He says they're not going to pay the $5,000 fine. They're basically going to give us the middle finger about a prison sentence. They're going to dare us. Many liberals are going to encourage them not to sign up. Many of them are not going to sign up. Yeah, it's a great idea in theory. In reality, it's not going to work. Do you agree with Frank? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868 is the number. All of your calls next. 32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, my friends, listen to the new iHeartRadio app with preset buttons. You can set the app to play the Kuhner Report automatically. Tom in Hudson. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
And thank you for your let me on the air. I want to talk about the registry.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to make an improvement to it, that they request that their employer information. So if they're working a full-time job, they don't need welfare and stuff like this. Also, if they don't comply with the 30 days, you send. If they don't receive a notice that they did comply, then the employers should terminate them. And this would make them sign up for the registry.
Well, Tom, let me ask you this. It's a very interesting proposal, don't get me wrong. But why don't we just go for the full Monty, as they say? How about this? And I don't know if there's legal hurdles or obstacles to this. If there are, I'm not aware of them. How about you sign up for the National Registry, and if you don't, we deport you. That's it. They can't pay the $5,000 fine. It's unfair to put him in jail, blah, 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 blah. All these excuses they're giving. Okay, very simple. Sign up for the National Registry. You don't sign up. It's a crime. We deport your ass. Period. That's it. So any illegal, after 30 days, any illegal that is pulled over for whatever reason or is discovered to be in the country illegally, however that happens, if you're not on the National Registry, you are automatically going to be deported. What say you, Tom?
So the other thing is I was just making a suggestion that we add to the National Registry who they work for.
I agree with you. No, look, Tom, I think it's a great idea. I really do. I think, look, we've got to start shaming employers who hire illegal aliens. They're shafting American workers. That's what they're doing. They're economic Benedict Arnolds. They're knowingly breaking the law. They're hurting fellow Americans. And that's why I'm all for E-Verify. Every employer should have to have an E-Verify system. And if they can't prove that their workers are legal, i.e. they're American citizens or green card holders or, whatever, then that worker has to be let go immediately and the employer is fined. Enough is enough. Tom, let's be candid, okay? Let's be honest. If there weren't businesses and corporations willing to hire all of these illegals, many of them wouldn't be here. I know many of them are coming for the welfare. There's no question. But a big, big chunk of the problem is because you've got, whether it be landscapers, construction companies, textiles, poultry, restaurants, fast food joints, whatever you want. They want to hire illegals for the cheap labor because they can pay them $10 or $12 or whatever, and not pay an American worker, whatever it is, $18, $20, $25 an hour. So it's a way to cut costs and line their pockets. And by the way, they know that these illegals can't live on $10, $12. They know that they're collecting in Massachusetts $60,000 a year, easy, in welfare state benefits. So the money that they pay them is just extra money for their, either to send back home or to put in their pocket. So, no. And by the way, Tom, I've never understood this from unions. I would think the one group above all the other groups that would be leading like a political jihad against illegal immigration and against employers hiring illegals would be the unions. Why? Because it's their members that are getting screwed. Their wages are being driven down. Their jobs are being stolen. Instead, like everything else, they've been bought off by the Democrat Party. So they have betrayed the working man a long time ago. So, Tom, I'm with you. Register them, and if they work, I want to know who your employer is. Tom, I love the idea. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mike, Maestro Mike, where do I'm going to go to next, Mike? Bobby in is it August or August? Saugus. Holy mackerel, Mike. Missing one letter, but it's the key. But it's the key letter, Mike. I mean, I have A-U-G-U-S on the board. So I'm supposed to figure out that that's Saugus? Look, and Mike's... and Mike, if I could just say this, I've also noticed when someone calls out of state, like I've got Dan in New Hampshire, you don't mention the town. Like if somebody calls out of Massachusetts, I don't understand. Like what, if they live in another state, they don't live in a town, Mike? The town doesn't matter. You don't trust me to pronounce the town correctly. It's incredible. All right. Bobby, my apologies in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Bobby, and welcome.
I think you're working Mike too hard, Jeff. Ease up a little bit, will you please? Huh? Hey, you know what I'd like to see? I would like to see an adopt an alien application. and give it to all these bleeding heart liberals that want to protect these illegal aliens. And on that application, they should agree to house an illegal alien and be responsible to support them and responsible if they break the law, and hand them out at the next press conference, okay? So when they start complaining and bitching and moaning, say, we got applications here if you want to adopt an illegal alien. Anybody want an application? And I bet you nobody will take one.
Bobby, don't get me wrong. I only have eyes for my wife. But I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend. Right away, I'm telling you, you're the front runner for Caller of the Week. Genius. Absolute genius. I love it. I love it. You know, Truth or Troll, that segment, Trump should go out and say, you know what? What the hell? I'm going to take Bobby's idea from Saugus. Why it's still August on the board, I don't know why, but let that go. Bobby and Saugus, I love that idea. Here's what I'm going to do. So nobody can say I'm not a compassionate man. You liberals love illegals? Great. We're going to create a separate program, sponsor an illegal. You got to feed them. You got to house them. You got to give them health care. You got to take care of them. They commit any crimes, you're responsible. And you take care of them. You sponsor them. They're yours. You want them. It's all about compassion. It's all about being inclusive. It's all about diversity. You want them. You got them. Bobby, I agree with you. Not a single one. Elizabeth Warren, worth $50 million, won't take them. Pelosi, worth $200 million, won't take them. Obama, with his mansions in Hawaii, in Chicago, in Washington, on Martha's Vineyard, all he's got are homes and rooms. Those cheap skunks, those cheapskates, they won't even take one, Bobby. It will expose them for the phonies and frauds that they are. Bobby, have you ever done an IQ test? I guarantee it's 140 and above. I guarantee it, Bobby.
Thank you for all you do.
No, thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it. Okay, Dan, you see what I'm talking about? There's no town. There's no town. So, Dan, somewhere in New Hampshire, because God forbid we should put a town next to the state. Dan in New Hampshire, thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Jeff, you're right. The legals ain't too hard to find. Drive around out in New Hampshire. All you got to do is there's dozens of cars around the house. I seem serious. I'm serious. I'm not kidding you. I know a lot of places when I was during the elections. I've seen it. So that being said, USAID gave $20 million to OOCRP, okay, to do a hit piece to journalists to do a hit piece to dig up dirt on Rudy Giuliani in 2019 to impeach a sitting President Trump. Okay, you got millions going to Politico, NPR, CBS, NBC, Disney. You know, so I guess they're still pumping stuff out right over there with Disney, and you got $9 million to Reuters. Okay, so and the other thing we got to watch out, Jeff, is these dirty. They're all involved. Clintons, they're involved in USAID. Obama, but the Cheneys, okay, Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney worked for USAID. And Bush, okay, back when they did the Bay of the Pigs, right?
Well, Dan, look, I mean, I don't want to get too a field here, but you're right. Look, they're using USAID for all sorts of nefarious, pernicious purposes, un-American, anti-American purposes. And I'm telling you, a lot of that money is being used to fund illegals. The money for illegals is everywhere. 950 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Down the stretch we come. All right, Mike, where do you want me to go to next, my friend? Rob in Newburyport. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Yes, good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Rob.
I'll tell you what, man, I've been listening to you for years, and when I try to get the call in, something happens. But recently, well, since Trump came back in, I've been listening to you every day. This is definitely a revelation for us, and especially these last couple of days, it's really lit a fire. And hopefully we're going to drop the mic today because listening to this young lady yesterday, Kristen from Maine.
Yes.
And then this morning, Grace, and then your other callers, Frank. We're all in tune. We see what's going on, but we actually need more participation and people getting out there. And so behind all of this is that for years, since the early 90s, I've worked in the mortgage industry. Okay, so as an American, to get a mortgage, okay, and being an underwriter, you have to have verification of employment, bank accounts, anything that's over 10,000 that's coming in or out of your account is monitored. I mean, we have so many systems in place for Americans, but why in the hell don't we have anything for these illegals? Okay, number one. Secondly, that what I heard like yesterday was, or the last couple of days, where all of the slush fund money that was going out to illegals to buy cars and SUVs and apartments and all that kind of crap. Okay, so I hope this drops on like a good set of ears, because I'm telling you, it's a no-brainer how to go after these people and trace the money. And I hope Doge will actually incorporate some of this. So all of these cars that are registered, they didn't drive over the border. They swam across the border, or they got trucked in behind, a tractor trailer or something. They didn't drive in these brand new SUVs, or they weren't given $20,000. If they were doing that well, they wouldn't be here. Okay, so all this money that they have, it's traceable, and I'm thinking that if we were to start going after some of these registrations and stuff and find out where all these like expensive brand new vehicles are going to, when ICE goes in, they're also incorporating and gathering up what they call like asset forfeiture. Okay, that works really well on Americans, but where the hell is it applying to illegal aliens?
Oh, I love it. I think you're dead on. Look, Rob, to cut to the chase, all right? As they say, let's talk turkey or cold turkey. Let's talk cold turkey. Rob, you mentioned you're an underwriter, and I know because I got a little bit of money from my dad, right? My dad passed away, and, nothing much, but he left behind something for me and my sister. And it was over $10,000, obviously. Oh, man, I had to go through the banking regulations. The government's got to get their cut. I mean, you jump through every hoop possible. These illegals are racking up cash left, right, and center, wiring it all over the place, receiving it all over the place. Honestly, it's disgusting. And you say, well, Jeff, why? Why are these illegals allowed to do things that Americans are not? It's very simple. Illegals are here to replace us. That's the reason. They're here to replace us as workers, as voters, as citizens. That's what they're here for. That's why Biden let them in. That's why Europe is being inundated. That's the World Economic Forum agenda, the New World Order, the globalist vision in a nutshell. There's too many of us, and they need to replace us. And now the prospect that they're all going to be deported is a body blow. It's a mortal blow to everything they've been doing for the last 35, 40 years. And that's why this registry is scaring the living daylights out of them. Because now they're going to be out of the shadows. And A, we're going to know how many of them there are, Rob. That's the big one. And then B, we know where they are. So we can start deporting them. And as we deport them, we're going to start finding out exactly what you're pointing out. How much, they're getting free cars, free SUVs, welfare money, grants to start businesses. Government never gave me a car. I don't think the government ever gave you a car, Rob. So we're going to find out that they gave them so much to encourage them to stay and to vote, to get rid of you and to get rid of me. Rob, final word, 30 seconds.
Yes, Jeff, I do agree. Also, too, like I've lived on the seacoast for 30 years, and all of a sudden in the last 2 years, I'm going to call them out, too. It's a business. Market Basket, Seabrook, 80%.
No, you're right. Look, 80% of their customers are illegals. I know. I've been to Market Baskets across the state. You're right. It's a mecca for illegals. And I got to tell you, I see all these illegals, and man, they love that EBT card. Oh, do they work that card hard. Bye-bye.